So today we covered two topics. Usually people will talk about business model canvas first, then you talk about product market fit. I'm going to switch it over. I'm talking about product market fit so that you understand that when you present a business model, how should you go about presenting it? I'm having an assumption that you know what the product market fit is and you know what a business model canvas is. So I'm not teaching the fundamental. I'm going to share with you how an investor look at all these things. Okay, so when you prepare your presentation to investor, you must bear in mind that this is what they are looking for. All right. So finding a product market fit. Oops. Okay. Doesn't go. Okay. Okay. So we will cover that. Why do you need to have a product market fit for the investor, and what exactly are they thinking about, and how you go about saying you're achieving the product market fit, and how does the product market fit look like. So very important. Okay. When your business is having a very poor conversion, okay, nobody like to talk about it. Very slow usage growth, very long sales cycle. Now, long sales cycle may be because of your product is a very complicated product, okay? But comparatively, you compare the industry norm, okay, and a very high churn. That means people drop you very fast. That means you don't have a fit, okay? So when these are the questions that when the investor asks, you say, okay, how long is the sales cycle? Mentally, he's just calculating that are you on par with other people or you are taking longer? All right. So to investor, this is actually the gauge for the investor to think about it. Okay. If your product is growing so fast that you hardly even have a chance to make it, all right, that's a very, very clear-cut case that you have a fantastic product market fit. All right. So in order for you to do product market fit in the investor, because that, okay, investor always look at it. You want your product to go as fast as possible, sell as fast as possible for you. But it also means that you are able to generate revenue and accumulate user much faster. So to him, it's a good ROI, right? Valuation increase, right? So being in a good market with a product that can satisfy the market is a very, very simple term to describe product market fit. So when you describe your product, okay, so it's not about talking about your product. It's talking about how the market like your product. All right. So later we will draw a little bit more about it because it is a natural tendency for all of us that we want to talk about our product because we love it. Okay, we feel that it's the most beautiful thing. But a beautiful thing that if nobody wanted, okay, that is not what the investor is looking for. Right? The investor most of the time is totally neutral with you and your product. You're looking at you as a product, okay? And whatever that you are selling must be able to sell fast, okay? So having understand that is that being in a good market with a product that can satisfy the market, that is a form of product market fit. Satisfying a market that satisfies you, of course, that, okay, ultimately, okay, being in a market that can achieve your goal. Right? So what is your goal? Your goal is revenue, okay, as far as an investor is concerned. Revenue, user. Okay. So we have many, many phrases to describe the same thing. We say they're making something people want, okay? So life is too short to build something that nobody wants. Okay, if it's nobody want, if you're taking too long, okay, in your description to, oh, I'm spending about 3-4 days trying to convince somebody that this is to take a trial. Okay, that is actually a red flag for an investor. They will be able to pick that up. Okay, so the reason why company fail, I believe this is what we all know. Okay, but consciously, you know, subconsciously, you're still doing the same thing, right? The top one is always about no market need. All right, multiple research all done the same thing, no market need. And even in Singapore, we also did exactly the same study. Out of the 700 over 1,000 company registered, okay, since pre-World War, all right? There's so many company registered, we have a large chunk of them closed, okay? And we're just taking the sample of those close, okay, 4,000 over them. We ask them why they close. All right. So the reason is that you can see over at right-hand side. No business activity, unable to sell, run out of cash, and shareholder dispute. Now, in terms of no business activity, there's nothing you can say because if somebody just registered a company, never signed anything. But the two large chunks contribute more than 60% of them, all right, is unable to sell and run out of cash, all right? So this is the last chunk of them. So you notice that it is, okay, unable to sell, basically, there's no market fit. Run out of cash actually is a proxy of the product market fit because when you don't have sales revenue to supplement you, okay, so you keep burning and you're building something. Having understand that, now you know that, okay, it's a human nature for all of us to focus on things that you are good at, not what you are sucked at. Okay, and I noticed that some of our profile that you have is that there is something that we don't really like to do. We don't like to be a salesperson. Okay, social component for some of you is actually quite low. All right, so most of the founders or hacker, those that build, love to build product. Okay, you always like to build, so you always describe about this is my product, this is what I've done, etc. But founder will get stuck optimizing the product features. Okay, have the matrix that are not derived from the conclusion. Okay, what is the right one? The right one, okay, the right conclusion that what you need is about sales. Okay, it's about sales, about user acquisition, because that is the one that will change your valuation. Or if your target audience is the corporate venture, then the right matrix is towards ability to have a team to build the product. All right, so these are very, very important aspects that you have to be very, very focused on. Okay, so failing to hit product market fit, most important is that you better hit the PMF before your cash run out. Because once the cash run out, that's it, finish. Your employee leave, okay, things stop, right? So the cash runway is something that's also very important for you to know if you are raising subsequent funding. All right. So now you understand that already. It's okay. It's very important. We emphasize that. Find your PMF before you run out of money. That's all. Okay. For any other startup, that's the most important thing. All right. So you don't expect that last minute somebody will chop in. Okay. So you better make sure that you have enough runway. All right. We constantly meet startup. Okay. By the time they come to see me, they already left with only 2 weeks. And then you ask me, you say, hey, you know, how? I say, sorry, close shop. Because 2 weeks is not enough for you to pitch and not enough for an investor to wire the money down. Okay, so a lot of times they have no choice, but they have to dip in their own pocket, take some money and keep the company alive. All right, so what exactly is PMF? So we have to look at it in a very, what's it called, structured way. You have target customer as a bottom of pyramid, that's the largest pool of people, and then you build on top. Is that based on the customer, you know what is their unserved need. Okay, something that they have a problem, nobody solve for them, and then that is a whole chunk we call market. Now on top of it is where your value proposition is, because your value proposition will be able to serve the need, and then behind the value proposition is a feature. Okay, feature is the one that build the value proposition, and ultimately on top is the UI and UX. Okay, user experience. Now the gap down there, okay, the top one we call product. The gap down there, this is where we call PMF, product market fit. This is a huge gap most of the time, from having something that able to serve the underserved or unserved needs. All right. So you will use the UX to test with the customer, but your main focus, it has to be the PMS, which is from the needs to your value proposition. These two are the most important thing that you have to figure out. Okay. Some of you may still thinking of changing your product, changing your composition. Okay, this is the area that you need to find evidence to show that you already achieved maybe 30%, 40% of it. Okay, otherwise you can forget about raising any money. All right. So at the bottom, this is what we call a problem space. Okay, problem space, actually you need to spend a lot more time, and solution space can come by easily. All right. So when you discuss about problem versus solution, now for an investor, they are very, very interested to understand the problem space first. Okay, they need to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve. You also need to use this one to help to frame him and say that this is the problem that I solve. Okay, because if you don't give him that one, he will think all kind of things, and when the thing doesn't fit, you miss the point totally. Okay, take for example, not looking at this example, I just encountered one example for the last 2 days. The last 2 days that we have been talking about, oh, there's a lot of people unemployed, going to be unemployed. So if we take the same number as US, okay, that is about 15% unemployment. For 15% unemployment, literally you're looking at the same percentage in Singapore. That will work out to be about 250 to 300,000 people lost their job. Now, how do you absorb all these people into the so-called give them some market, which is the example I used yesterday. The government can be saying that, okay, why not you form a startup and I give you 30 grand to start with it. Okay, so now, most of the time when people talk about this conversation, most of the people's first reaction is that, hey, most of the startups are not making money. They're going to die. Why wasting the money? Right? We must be able to focus, and people come up with mentor scheme, people come up with venture builder, serial entrepreneur, technology infused, all kind of things. Okay, then, but what is wrong with it? Right? The problem is, the issue is that the reason for the scheme is not about building startups. The reason of the scheme is absorbing the unemployment. So when you start looking at a solution and you keep talking about solution, this is the scheme, this is what it is, going to have mentor, going to have program, put the people in, give some funding, etc. You're talking of all kind of feature, but people will think of it to solve something else. So most of people associate startup with innovation. All right. So they say, oh, you need to have this one. You need to go for selection. The good one you will take, lousy one you weed out, and etc. But they forgot. The whole scheme is to solve a very simple problem, and that problem is unemployment. You know that this guy is going to fail anyway. This is going to give them 30,000, and that is the cheapest way to create job. Right? And if you have 300,000 people, okay, 5% one company, I can create 60,000 company. And each company, $3,000. How much am I going to spend? It's only 1.8 billion. It's only 1.8 billion. Okay, so far this COVID scheme already disbursed, I think, more than $16 billion. And this is only 10% of it, and you create job for everybody, right? So by understanding the problem, okay, you must use a problem to frame the investor thinking first, all right? Because otherwise you think you're supposed to solve this thing, and all of a sudden you say, I'm solving the other one. You have a cognitive dissonance, you lost him, and in fact, he will get angry, right? And when the thing is deeply ingrained, you will constantly ask, why don't you look at this one? Why don't you look at this one? And you realize you will have that kind of problem, right? So very important that is look at the problem space first. Okay, a customer problem needs or benefit that the product should address. Okay, and this is usually in a well-written story. Okay, solution is what you offer. Okay, so for all the founders, you always love solution space, but this is what you build. Okay, for most of the investor, they need to understand the problem space first. Okay, so you notice that a lot of presentation usually come with that they're going to have half a slide or even just maximum one slide talking about a problem and straight away jump into talking about solution. Without the viewer, what's it called, the investor understand that the problem and how impactful that problem is. Okay, so people don't want a quarter-inch drill, which is a solution. They want a quarter-inch hole. This is a problem. We want that hole to put something there. All right. So in a problem space, you're just saying, I need the ability to write in zero gravity. All right. And the solution space is a space pen that costs $1 million to develop, $1,000 tablet and stylus, or 30-cent pencil. Now this is actually a myth that a lot of people hear. Okay, 30-cent pencil is the solution by the Russian astronaut. Actually, is that okay? Pencil doesn't work in space, because when you write, there's a lot of dust come out, and those dust is potentially dangerous. Okay, so they are literally looking at special pencil that is dust-free. The paper in the space they use also is lead-free paper. Okay, but it's a very good description, help people to understand. Instead of costing $1 million to develop something because the ink doesn't flow, okay, it can be something cheaper. Right? So when you look at the problem space, once you understand that, you will derive the solution. All right? So a problem space is that I want to find my text. Where the solution? The solution can be a lot. All right? When you understand the problem, communicate the problem, the solution will come naturally. All right? So you will always have a lot of solution to a common problem. Right? So in the sense that when someone look at it, the solution, you look at this one, this is a feature that you want to add, okay? Then on the backlog, you can have a lot of things. Okay, I'm just going to skip this one. All right, so a very simple example is that I want to file my tax. All right, so tax filing, I think is about in season right now. Solution, okay? Before you talk about solution, this is a very simple statement where the problem I encounter. I need to maximize my deduction, right? How can I make sure that I can claim this, I can claim that, I can claim subsidies for being an NS man, I can claim having a senior citizen parent living with me, etc. I want somebody to be able to help me to check my return because I may not get everything correct. Okay, I need to save time on filing because a lot of time filing tax is a very stressful time. You sit down there and try to file it. Okay. And I also need to prepare for all this and get all the document ready. Okay, what to claim, what to so-called get the waiver, etc. And most importantly, okay, you want to minimize your audit risk. That means that you don't want to file wrongly. Now, Singapore government has done something fantastic. Is that they really have a system. Okay, I don't even need to do any of it. So it makes tax collection, tax filing become very, very seamless and smooth. So most people actually have a very good tax experience. Now, is the government system 100% accurate? Not necessarily. A lot of time we found the number is a little bit different, but okay lah. Off by a little bit. Am I going to drill deeper and do it? Heck lah. Okay, you're just going to pay maybe another $2 more every month or whatever. So most of the time, we make it very, very smooth that people will just let the system take care of it. But in most other place, then you start looking at their solution space. Okay, each one will need a different solution. For example, how am I able to maximize my deduction? So there is an application to look for deduction. Okay, you key in your parameters, it will tell you that you can consider this. Okay, your child. Okay, if your child is how old in the school, you can get $1,000 deduction, for example. But the moment your child enter into army, okay, he is now earning money. Sorry, you don't have the deduction. And the money that the army pay him is not enough most of the time. And he still took allowance from you. Now, all of a sudden you realize that, hey, it is actually you, okay, as a parent, funding your child go to army. All right. So most of the people never thought of this one because Singapore system make it very, very smooth. But when you do the tax deduction, you realize you will find that. Okay. Tax return error check to check your error. Okay, make sure that which is categorized correctly. Okay, auto-filling, data downloaded, so you have all your data and auto-upload it, and audit risk analyzer. Now, all these things can be individual person and can be a software system. So this is just a solution. But you have to look at it. Why the people looking for all these things? Number one, for the tax deduction, why is it? He's looking for financial benefit because he's going to make sure that he doesn't file and pay too much. All right. So the motive for him to use that application is save money and make money. All right. The rest of them, the major part is performance benefit. How does it make me able to do my job, which is filing tax easily? Right? It's about saving time, improve accuracy. Right? Audit risk is actually image benefit, so that I don't get caught. I'm not being hung up in the court and then being charged in the court. Right? So looks good and dominate the space. So now when you start looking at this, is that when you present that to your investor, features, facts are good, but if you tell him that, okay, my ability, let's say the solution space, my ability is help the people to bound the tax. Then the benefit to the person is save money and make money, which your investor immediately understand and say, yeah, this is what your customer will buy. All right. So communicating on benefit and buying motive is more important about talking about your feature. All right. Because a lot of time, just like yesterday when you do an introduction, you give very, very broad stroke about problem, but immediately you start talking about products. Okay. The product feature is less important unless you are able to highlight its benefit. Okay. So that is where the product market fit, talk about benefit, match with the advantage, underlying is where your feature is. All right. Okay. Product market fit is basically benefit, okay, solving a problem that from using a feature. A sales pitch is actually the other way around. So we call it FAB. Okay. So it's called feature, advantage, benefit. This feature solve this problem, or reverse a problem to give you advantage that give a benefit to the customer. Right? So PMF and sales are always together. We will cover the sales pitch next week. Okay. So how do you achieve your PNF? Okay, so I'm going to show you a very, very quick video. Okay, is that you always start with the problem, which is also called start with why. So I'm going to show you the video. Can you hear the sound?
When things don't go as we assume, or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different?
Oops, sorry.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight. And the Wright brothers beat them to it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way. And it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into 3 major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't the other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, you know, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered manned flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10% proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap that you have to close, as Jeffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world, and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example of the law of diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own, and they told people. And some of those people created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed, and it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there are 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It just so happens that the civil rights movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he gave the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans. They're not inspiring anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why that have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
So Simon Sinek lectures is a very interesting one, and one of the very popular one. Some of you may have seen it before. The most important thing is that it helps you to understand that what is the purpose, right? So when you present to the investor, most important thing is that the purpose of your business, okay, it is the most important thing that have to be surfaced. Now bear in mind that when you talk to investor, your product, it is not the product. Your whole business is the product, right? So bear in mind that you don't focus on the product itself, but you are talking about your whole business and why is this business even exist, right? So this is some of very important thing that you have to be able to break it up, because most of the time when we see a company making presentation, they focus a lot of time talking about their products, right? The investor is not looking at product. Investor is looking at your whole business. He's buying your share. Okay, your share covers the whole thing. So your startup is actually just a vehicle for you to achieve your goal. So you're looking at the totality of it. And most of the time when you are building, okay, so it depends on where you are. Okay, the investor is looking at different things. The very first stage is like a problem solution fit. How is your solution able to fit the problem? But of course, you know what the problem is. Then you move this stage, okay, the product that you build, which is a solution, how is it going to fit the market? The market is larger than a few customers that have the same problem. And eventually, like Simon draw the curve, is that how can you have scale, right? Having scale is the next most important thing to an investor, because that without scale, okay, he really don't have the kind of upfront. All right. So in the very first place, problem solution fit. The question you always ask that is something worthy to solve. Is the problem big enough, right? If the problem is not very big and not many people feel that it's an issue, which is one of the key issues with most of the company, because they are having, okay, we see that this is very, very common. Okay, we see a lot of companies who come out and say that, okay, this is how I feel as a founder. Okay, this is a problem I encounter. But if this is a problem that you encounter, are you paying for it? Are you paying for a solution? And most of the time the answer is no. So you have a problem and you're not willing to pay somebody to solve it for you, and all of a sudden the investor will have the question and say, then why am I an investor pay you to solve your problem? Okay, the investor is not your customer, they're never your customer. Then the second stage, you look at the product market fit. When you build something to solve that problem. Is that something that people want? There's two aspects to it. The very first aspect is that you are having the customer, the user having a problem that he wants you to fix, and he's willing to pay for it. And at the same time that your product, the second level is that your product fit this one well. Okay. Last, then you talk about scale. Okay, how can you accelerate growth? How can you cross the chasm? How can you show the investor that you are on the way to cross the chasm? Because remember yesterday we talked about all investors are picking winner. All right. So the first two stages, you have to focus on validation. How can you show evidence that these two are validated? The easiest thing to do, most of people will validate is using what's it called, survey. But survey is usually not a perfect solution because it depends on how you ask the questions. Okay, because at I think yesterday we also showed the example that when the NUS Prof Wong, okay, Pokang, when he asked a question to all the young people in the university undergrad, would you like to be a startup? Would you want to do entrepreneurship? 81.4% of them say yes, right? This is what we show. Now, this is not a validation because that we know that the people are primed, okay? Because they think of startup is like Facebook, Google, and you can have all the free time all the time. Okay, you have snooker, you have food in your canteen for free. You can travel around the world. So it's quite fun, right? So people thinking of that, okay, I want to work in a startup, but they're not thinking of being entrepreneurs, right? So priming, and this is how you get the answer, all right? Especially when you start asking your friends that, do you think this is a good solution to fit this problem? Most of the friends will say yes, all right? So validation is a very, very tricky thing, and you must be able to prove to the investor that, stop, look, this is validated. How do I validate? Okay, I put it on Kickstarter. These people pay without even having a product. That is validation. And if it doesn't work, then you have to pivot, right? So what you get is actually the early adopter. And then you come to the second stage, is that where you focus on growth, then your focus will be on optimization. Yesterday when we asked the question about scale, what is the definition of scale? The scale basically means that you don't have to increase your cost, but you can ramp up your sales revenue, right? So it's about optimization. And scale is where you want to push into the early majority. But the moment you can cross the chasm, 16%, that is when the investor get very, very excited, right? So you always need to aim for the early majority as well, shaded down here, okay, red color shaded down here, because you need to know that, okay, you have a problem, they will have a problem they want to solve, and they know that they have it, right? So Simon also mentioned that over down here, the laggard people, they don't even know that they have a problem. All right, they don't have a problem, they don't know the problem. So usually they're the last one to adopt it. But this is where you need to push. This is where you need to show the investor that you are on your way here. Okay. All right. So I will skip this kind of model, but I just will very, very quickly mention about it. Is that user satisfaction, okay, and user need, okay, are usually orthogonal. Okay. So the performance usually move along this line. Okay. For a mediocre product is where people usually approach the need, okay, have a must have, okay, and users are not very satisfied with it, okay. But a good product, that is when you usually follow this curve, okay? Because it will constantly delight the customer, so they feel very, very satisfied about it. Now, satisfying them most of the time is actually to meet their or exceed their expectation. So that is the kind of curve that we are so-called fighting for. But bear in mind that majority of the product are actually going on this way. So you are able to keep track of this particular gray line performance. I think you are doing very well already. Okay. So some of them, as time progresses, okay, this line will move down and down and down. For example, the iPhone, if an old iPhone, you typically don't want it, okay? But you know that the feature, everything is still Apple is down there. Maybe I use another example, iPod, Okay, iPod, you started off with everybody like it, okay? But now with the iPhone down there, all of a sudden you realize that the need is not fulfilled. The whole curve now shift further down. All right. So things you have to just keep pushing it. So at the point of your presentation to the user, to the investor, you must show that your product delight your customers. Okay. So a typical example. Okay, I'm just going to skip to all the dots. Is that you must have a few points. Okay, that you're able to delight compared to your nearest competitor. Now, one of the things I would like to highlight is that when you present to a customer, I mean an investor, do you need to present the competitor? But I noticed that a lot of people just love to have a chart that you put yourself on the top right and everybody else elsewhere. This is how you want to create a contrast to show people that you are really that good. So unless you are really that good, because that when you show a competitor as an investor, I would go and pull out all this investor. Some of them I don't even know. And immediately you're giving me a lot of pointers. I'm going to document it down. I'm going to do due diligence on all these competitors. And they may come back and say, forget about it. Your startup, you are not fantastic. All right. So most of the time, I do not give airtime to my competitors. All I'm going to show them is that, look, this few feature will delight my customer. They buy it because of this one. All right. So this is the most important thing. Okay. So you need to have high performance benefit. You have the point to delight your customer. So when the investors see, they say, I see. This is why people adopt you. This is why your customer buy you. He's looking for a reason. He's looking for all the why. So you have to be able to give him. All right. All right. So what is a value proposition? How to create a winning product market fit value proposition? Okay. You don't compete on the must-have. Must-have, everybody should be having it out there. If you don't have a must-have, forget about it. The business is doomed, right? Although you need to be the best on at least one performance benefit, because otherwise, sorry, you're just a me too. It's going to be very difficult when you raise money, right? So, but most importantly is that if you have a unique delighter, and then one best performance, okay, that is when you have a very good, a very powerful combination. That is how you want to show your investor. Because that most of the time when you have something he may know or something, mentally you start comparing. All right, mentally you start comparing. But you say, okay, I have most of the feature other people have, but I have this thing that all my customers love it. This is the make and break portion. All right, then immediately you will focus it on that one. The rest of them, everybody is doing, I'm okay, right? So, but this is the one that I have. So the tool for PMS is actually very simple. We all know it. So basically is design thinking, right? Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and go back again, okay? So I'm not going to go through this one. You all know design thinking. So you will go through all the various phases, okay? Go to all the various phases about it. Now, you will make assumption, okay, and then you will test. Make assumption, and then you will test, okay? Assumption and test. Now, why are we showing all these things? Because that all this assumption and all these tests, the result is something that you need to keep. Because when you come to due diligence, that is what the investor will be asking for. All right. So later we will show how I see the thing go, investment community going. So these are the things that is very important. You need to have all this data to show it. All right. So sometimes they just do 1 or 2 points and then a thing is done. No, you have to do something that is more complete. All right. So how you empathize? Ask question. Now I will cover on Monday about consultative selling, but I want to highlight 4 very important questions. Okay, that you want to ask. Number 1, you start with fact-finding questions. Generally, all the questions you can find, and you ask the customers. Then you zoom in to ask them that what is the problem under all these conditions. Now, most of the people stop there. Okay, when you have a problem, very quickly, you jump in, you find a solution. But no, very important, you must understand the next two questions. Okay, question 3 is the most important one. Why is that so? Because you ask the customer, what is the impact of this problem? If the impact is not very important, he will not pay. All right, so you don't have a case. But if the impact is something that you feel very strongly about it, then a solution will be very welcome. Now, that is when a good startup will be able to do something. All right, the impact, although may be very, very small, if the interviewer, the startup, you, the founder, able to articulate this impact, okay, in a very, very specific, tangible form, and all of a sudden, the people will realize that, oh yeah, I do have this problem. This problem is serious. Notice, remember the curve that Simon said, the normal curve, okay, adoption curve that we see, okay. People on the right-hand side path, they didn't realize that they have that problem, right? But when they start seeing it, oh yeah, this is actually a problem, and then they begin to like it. All right, so impact becomes very important, and impact is also what makes your customer want you and what makes the investor love you. When you show that this impact is a $1 million impact, then the solutions, okay, become very, very valuable. So take for example, okay, because of COVID, now we know that, okay, the airline is not flying. So what if airline is not flying? Right? Airline is not flying, don't get to travel, fine. Okay, so the very first thing you ask about that, what is the impact? The impact is that globally, about 10.2 million people are hired by the airline and airline-related business. Oh, 10.2 million jobs is on the line. Now it sounds a little bit more serious. All right, 10.2 million people. Okay, so you just multiply by the job. So you know how serious and how much money is at stake for it. Now, people like IATA, okay, the Airline Association, what they will do is that they say, no, it is not just airline. The associated businesses, for example, hotel, restaurant, tourist attraction, etc., are impacted too. And there are, how many people are there? So you sum it up, it's about 65 million people. So 65 million jobs will be on the line. And all of a sudden, the government will have to sit up and look and say, oh, there's so many people going to be out of job. Right? So the impact from a very simple, we cannot fly, okay, to how many jobs is being lost? 62 to 65 million jobs lost. Okay, many countries, their GDP is about maybe 10% to 15% actually from tourist receipt. So all of a sudden say, yeah, there's a lot of money. For Singapore, okay, our GDP is 350 billion. So you just talk about 10% is $35 billion. Is it impactful? Yes, it is very impactful. Right? So articulating the impact is the most important thing that you can do. Right? And then of course that then you have a benefit question, which is where the why is. All right. So there's a software that you can generate customer script, which you can play, okay? And a lot of the time, most of people say, I don't know how to ask. The very first person you can ask me. I will be able to ask you sufficient question that you begin to understand that you know how to ask question. All right? So most important thing for you in terms of product market fit is to be able to master the problem space. And the caution is always said, don't jump into solution because that this is what most of people like to do. All right. You notice that your pitch very, very quickly, you're talking about solution. All right. So avoid solution pollution. There are too many things down there. Okay, start by asking why. Define your problem space with benefit and impact. All right. Value proposition, product market fit. Okay, using the grid Kano model for you to help you to understand and say, oh, am I the best fit out there? But most of the time, we can do it mentally. So how does a product market fit look like? Now, if you have a lot of input and produce very little output, that is not product market fit. That is a slave, okay? You will have a little bit thing and you can produce a lot of output. Take, for example, a manager, and he have a lot of worker, and he just need to have a issue of instruction and his thinking, and the worker will produce a lot of output. So master to slave relationship is that, okay, a machine, okay, in a, for example, the situation is that, that is what we did before, okay, in Texas Instruments, a factory, a production line. Now, we noticed that if I increase the conveyor belt speed, people will work faster. But I cannot increase it fast because people will notice that. So what we did is that we just tune it by adding about less than 6%, okay, speed increase. And we just over time, okay, increase them. Over time, we increase it to about 30%. So belt speed get faster, people work faster. Now, which also means that the human, okay, the what's it called, the factory worker, those lady, they didn't know that they are being a slave because when the machine move fast, they have to move fast also, right? Versus that the master is the one that was thinking that, okay, how can I change my system? How can I increase the speed a little bit, okay? And the throughput increase. All right. So by having an ability to do a proper product market fit, you are become a master and you're able to control your output. All right. I'm going to switch the topic a little bit, okay, to talk a little bit about something called scale, okay, exponential organization. I'm only going to cover on the right brain, which is this part of it, okay. The rest of them you can go and read up on your own now. When you present a solution to the investor, what are they interested? They love to hear scale company. Why is that so? Because scale company, the cost is maintained, the revenue increase, that means that your valuation will go up, okay, tremendously. What kind of company that have scale? The very first one they look at is staff on demand. So I'm going to use Uber or Grab as an example so you can understand it. Are the driver, okay, belongs to Uber? The short answer is no, right? So from the Uber perspective and then from the investor perspective, the driver, when I need them, I call them. They will serve the customer and I pay them accordingly. Now, are the driver happy? No, the driver is not necessarily happy. But who cares? Because the driver are not the so-called the customer. So of course the driver will stand up and say, look, I want to have an employee benefit. Unfortunately, they will never get it. But there's a model. It maybe sounds like exploitation, but that is a kind of model as an investor look at it and say, yeah, I don't have a fixed cost. Okay, if the person is not working, I don't have to hire him. Right? This is very flexible, good on the balance sheet. Number two, you have a community and crowd. Now, community are the people, for example, the rider. The rider can be a customer. The rider can be a staff, okay, a driver too. And the community give you all the data. And the most important thing, to keep the community very, very sticky. So when you're having an app, why are we asking for how sticky is the app? The reason being that when you have enough user inside, you have a community, and that is what changed the valuation. Now, when all these things you have already, you have a community, you have the staff on demand. Now, the whole operation required to be running on algorithm, some form of automation. Why do you need this? Because otherwise you have a manual people to start doing dispatching. So, for example, that Uber. If Uber having worker down there and say, oh, listen, somebody called out and then I dispatch, which is long time ago, that is what how NTUC comfort taxi operate. You call in, they will dial and see who are the driver available, then they assign. As you increase the number of customer, rider, then you have to increase the number of the operation people. So this is not good. By having computer system, you're automatically routing it, the cost is reduced. That is what scale is all about, all right? The other two is actually more important in the whole game because that this is what we call leverage asset. In the Uber situation is that the car belongs to who? The car is rented, leased by the staff. So Uber don't own the assets. It's not his, but you get to use it. All right. So the people the driver will have to have his own car, let Uber use it, and Uber just pay accordingly. So the asset itself, Uber is totally like, okay, it's just a computer system, largely the algorithm, build the user as a crowd, and that's it. And you create an engagement, all right, to ensure that the engagement and the churn is good. So SCALE, okay, staff on demand, community and crowd, algorithm, leverage assets, and engagement. Is the acronym that you use it to remember that when you have all these features, you will be likely a very good exponentially scale company. All right. These are the things that investors are looking at. So when you design your business, you design a model, you see what can you put into this one. All right. And you have to emphasize it. Now, is it important? So it's very important. I'll give you an example of this particular guy. For 20 years, he's wearing exactly the same. Maybe his sneaker changed, but look at Apple stock price. Right? He's constantly building the kind of products, okay, by understanding it. Apple is a very well-studied company. Apple is a very good-used example. But you notice that Apple is not very easy to replicate. It's because that he thinks very differently. Most of people will fall into the same thing. Okay, so Simon shared this on the video. You can see very clearly that most of people will just follow what first, but he think of why. Okay, from the why, be able to derive what to do. Okay, so by having that kind of mindset, you eventually will be able to change and become a very profitable. All right. So for those of you who are software based, you know that a startup doesn't meet a product market fit. Okay. Okay, the startup cannot scale. If the startup reach product market fit, okay, startup can scale. Right. So the key for you to win, okay, is for you to be able to find the product market fit so that the investor willing to invest in you. Otherwise, you'll be running out of money. All right. So this is the first segment, okay, on the product market fit. Okay, we are open for questions and any discussion. Okay, let me just stop share first. Yeah. All right. So any immediate questions?
Everyone, feel free to ask if you have any questions. Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Lin, Christophe here.
Yes. Hi.
A slide which shows outperforming benefit plus something else. I missed this. I think it was just after just before the scale.
Just before the scale.
Go back to the slide. I wanted to have a look again at this particular slide.
Let me just share the slide first. Just a second. Let me reshare the slide. Okay. Before the scale.
Here, let me see.
This one?
No, it is higher. I think it was after the when you talk about the competitor analysis, right? To highlight more on the outperforming benefit.
Yes.
I think it's a table. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. But the next one, slide 45.
Okay.
Okay. So, to highlight the outperforming benefit and the delight. Delight. Can you explain more on what's the delight? Is basically the feedback on from the satisfied user, or how do we show that?
Okay, so your product features typically you have something that everybody must have.
Okay.
Right? And some of the things that people didn't know that they want it, but they love it. So take for example that iPhone. I mean, we always like to use iPhone as an example. Yeah. iPhone is a phone, so you must be able to make phone call. Everything is there. But iPhone have something that delight you. For example, that number one, it feel heavier.
Okay.
Why is it feeling heavier? Because it make you feel that this one is valuable. That's number one. Number two is that when you show off, when you're able to take the latest iPhone out, you become the star of the room, right? So that is something that you subconsciously, emotionally, you want it as a user, as a customer, right? So that is a delighter.
Would you say that outperforming benefit refers to, let's say, like the product features, and the delighter would be like, what's the additional thing you're getting from this particular feature?
Yeah. Okay, so maybe just go back to the fundamental again. Everybody looking for something called financial performance and image need. So financial performance image are always mapped to make money, save time, improve the person product, and survival in the marketplace or dominate the marketplace, right? So these are the so needs and buying motive.
Okay.
I think I have one slide just now. I'll quickly mention it. Okay. Right. So this is one, financial performance and image benefit. Right. So you will translate to a buying motive called save money, make money, save time, and look good. So
Okay.
features, okay, over down here will give you all these things.
Okay.
Some feature, delighter is typically so much better than other people.
Okay.
Right? So you have maybe most of them are good, okay, matching the expectation already, and then you want that super good.
Okay.
Right. So for example, I think you're doing IoT, right? If I'm not wrong.
No. We are a sort of grub for construction industry.
Okay. So you are doing the SaaS for construction industry.
Yes.
So what is the thing that will make a construction company super happy? Right? So you only need to fix one of that. You meet all the need, okay, because you're doing scheduling, you help them to save money, etc. So this is requirement, right? But for example, that since you're working with BCA and all these people, if you happen to have an ability to have a green lane license application, all right, so now they know that, hey, if I'm using your system, the parameters, okay, this is what my planning is, okay, the system can tell me that, oh, this is a good chance that you will get this license, how fast. Now, this is what other people don't have, okay? Maybe other people have to do manually, maybe a consultant will be able to tell you, roughly, I think you will get that. But let's say you have an AI system, they're able to make the assessment and say, look, I can give you a good estimate. Or even better, you can say that, look, you can now call on this guy, and put what kind of application. So now you kind of like pull your product away from other people, where other people don't have. But bear in mind that the Kano curve is so that eventually your delighter become a norm, right? So you have to constantly find a delighter at every update. So that's how the world works.
Okay.
Right?
Thanks.
So it's just that iPhone, the feature initially was fantastic. Then after a while, everybody have it. You have to just keep improving it. But their marketing is good because their marketing never talk about what's it called, the feature. Their marketing always just talk about all the emotion. Okay, these are the thing. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Lin, I had a question concerning the validation aspect. So like when you were explaining the process, you talked about how for both the problem solution fit as well as the product market fit, validation is a very important aspect of both those parts. So, and you gave the example of Kickstarter as well. Like suppose if you're building a product and that works as a
bit louder because your sound is a bit muffled. Yeah.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so I was saying that my question is concerning the validation aspect. Like you mentioned how it's crucial to both problem solution fit and product market fit aspects of the whole process. So, and you also gave the example of Kickstarter, like if suppose you have a good product and you can show that there are people committing to the product there, that works as a good validation. But what if your service or your product is not necessarily something that you can pitch online in the form of a Kickstarter proposal? So how can in those cases you can show a good validation is there to back up your business to the investors?
Okay, there are many, many ways of doing validations. Okay, so, okay, I give you some example. Okay, if the product is pretty much a consumer-oriented product, so you can typically do it online. All right. So, for example, that okay, I'm going to have a beer brewing kit. All right. So let's call it medicinal beer. So I can brew beer, but I put some medicine, so you will be super healthy even you drink beer. Now, I do not know how to validate it, right? So easiest way to do, yes, you go to the market and go and ask people, you ask 1,000 people and say that people will tell you, say, oh yeah, I'm interested, I'm not interested. So you can do a survey. The other way of doing, a very quick way of doing with the data is that go to Twitter, go to the Twitter group that dealing with, let's say, beer brewing. Okay, and then you write your tagline, okay, medicinal beer brewing kit, okay, make you healthy, something like that, okay, less than 160 characters. And then you start following a lot of people, okay, but you have to follow gradually. So assuming that you follow about 1,000 people. And then you sit back and see how many people follow you back. Okay, this is what I call Twitter approach. So when you notice that when you follow somebody, okay, on the Twitter, you will read, well, this is a guy, okay, this is a few lines down there, okay, I'm interested, I want to follow him back. So this is actually paying with action. Now, if you collect the data and say that out of 1,000 people that you follow, less than 5%, and forget about it, I think no traction. Okay, if the idea is, let's say, 8%, okay, oh, some chance of it. If the idea is 16%, there's a good chance. If the idea cross 16%, you have a winner. So the beer brewing is actually a real example. Okay, the exercise was done over 2 days, and well, I say that they have about 48% of them follow back. Okay, so definitely this is a validated one. In fact, the business will go. Right?
Okay.
So this is an example, right? So, but you can also do basically market survey, right? Market survey basically is just go out and ask the people, general, this is your crowd, go and hit them, and then start taking notes of answer. But survey is not good enough because that most of the time when you ask somebody that, oh, would you like this product? Very few people will say no, because after all, I'm not paying anyway. I won't see you again, right on the street. You like this pendant? Oh yes, fantastic. This is good. But,
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
that helps.
Okay. So that is not a good validation. So a good validation is like Kickstarter. When people pay, people will so-called see the product. So you have to devise a way to show that you have that data. That is a form of validation, because people want your product. Okay?
Yeah, that helps.
That is very important because an investor will look at it and say, is it validated? Now, I'm assuming that you're going for VCs and above, but if you're going for angel investor, validation is less important, because that angel investor put the money in so that he will joyride with you, and maybe he will help you along the way. Okay, so that's why I said later when we come to the next what's it called next week, I mean your mentor sessions, there's a list of checklists. I'll go through it later, and you have to figure out that how can you show that your product market fit is validated.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are many ways of doing it, but you have to figure it out also. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Questions? Any other questions? Okay. All right. If you don't have, it's okay. I'm just going to, oops. Sorry. Okay. I just close the app and then, yeah. Okay, just let me bring up the other deck. Okay. Right now. Share the other screen. Oh, okay, I'm going to cover the next segment. We'll be talking about business model canvas. This is, okay, who is not familiar with business model canvas? Anybody? Right, you all hear a lot about it. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm not going to cover everything about business model canvas. I just want to zoom in the initial few module of it. Okay, that is when your investor are always very concerned about. Okay, so business model canvas, one of the basic skill that you need in order for you to establish it is the questioning skill, which I mentioned just now. Okay, fact-finding question, problem questions, cause and effect question, and ultimately the benefit questions. Okay, and also I emphasize just now that cause and effect question is the most important one because you will be able to find the impact. If things is not impactful, nobody wants it. All right, so impact is basically an ability to stir shit and stoke fire. That's what we call it. A small tiny thing that he never even thought of it and say, oh, this is something going to be very, very serious. All right, so sometimes we joke about it is that a medical professional, doctor, are damn good at doing it. So when you go and see a doctor and the doctor just listen, then he listens a little bit more. Actually, I'm not very sure, but let me listen again. Okay, and then you are looking at him and say, wait a minute, what is going on? Then he will tell you, say, actually, I'm not very sure. Maybe there's some concern. Maybe nothing at all. Not serious enough, but I never know. Okay, there's something that I hear down there. Okay, would you want to go for a test? If you don't test, well, that is okay. You don't know, maybe nothing happened. But if something down there, then how? Now notice that is that what the whole action down here is that it creates a cause and effect. If you don't do it, something serious may happen. Right? So originally, I'm perfectly healthy. Okay, I'm an asymptomatic COVID so-called carrier. I'm totally fine. Okay, I don't want to know because I'm perfectly okay. I can run. Okay, I can climb stairs. I got no problem at all. But after he hears it, maybe something is wrong. Maybe you drop it. All of a sudden, he say, "Oh yeah, I better do something like that." So immediately he will be able to sell you a whole suite of all other things. Now notice that cosmetic product sales girls are also very good at doing that, right? So this is where the cause and effect question that is very important because that is the thing that will resonate very well with your customer, and your customer buy into it, and your customer love it. The customer tells somebody about it. You have a runaway success. Okay, so that is very important. Okay, so how some of the validation is actually you actually play on that is because of human emotion. Okay. Have we understand that? So we are coming into the business model canvas because ability to ask those questions with the customer will help you to anchor. So now, out of the 9 building blocks of business model canvas, which is the block that you should start first? Anybody? Any guess? Anybody making a guess?
Customer segment.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, always start with customer segment. Years ago, I think they were showing people that said start with the value proposition. Okay, this is a very typical MBA school, business school. They will think that value proposition is what sell, but the fact is that you can have a value proposition. Can you define a value proposition without a customer? You can't. Okay, value proposition is always relative to the customer. So when you say that, oh, I have a best marker, okay, whiteboard marker, right? So that's a value proposition, one of the best in the world. Okay, you can, you can perpetuate ink well and can use for a very long time, but depends on who your customer is. If your customer is a distributor, does he want a marker, whiteboard marker that can use for a very long time? No. Okay, a distributor wants the end user to come here and keep buying. All right. preferably the guy drying up. Okay, if we are not careful. All right. So it depends on the customer. But if the direct customer is the one that use it, then it is good. All right. So value proposition is always tied to the customer. So you always start with the customer, and there's only two questions. Okay. Who is the customer, the individual persona, and what is his problem? Now, a lot of time when you talk about customer, tends to be very, very generic. Okay. So some of you who do, let's say, construction software, just like you mentioned about it, they say, oh, company dealing with construction. Okay. Company dealing with construction, does all of them need your software? The answer is not necessarily, all right? So maybe somebody is just dealing with supplying cement, dealing with construction, but he may not be the one who needs it. So you must be able to narrow down in such a way that your investor understand who that is, okay? Because most of the time, as a founder, you have mental image of who that person is. You know it, but you never share it, okay? And I constantly meet with a lot of people say that, oh, all men love this kind of thing. Okay, are you really referring to men? How about the gay? Are they men, the same group or not? Right? How about children? Are they considered men or refer to male? Okay, are the one old person or the one that is younger person? Okay, the male who stay in the city who have a certain need, or the male that is good looking have a different needs. So it's very important for you to be able to define the customer archetype. All right. So we have one session with one of the company, and he said that, oh no, we are using AI to help people to arrange their group travel. I said, okay, group travel. All right, so what's the problem? Okay, people say, oh, people go group travel, and then because of the itinerary cannot fit, they always end up quarrel, and then friendship is not good. So okay, this is a value proposition, but what kind of people will have that problem? You notice that majority of people with the young kids, okay, they will travel with the family, and the mom decide everything. The dad just go along, okay? The kids were sleeping along the way, they don't really care. I say, okay, you don't have an itinerary problem, right? The old people, they may have an itinerary problem, but usually have a small group. They are all seasoned and accommodate each other already. Okay, so who are the people? The people are young people like you that probably go for the first trip, group trip together after your first graduation. Right? Good friend, oh yeah, finish, graduate, let's go for a tour. And that is when the relationship breaks down, because only when you live together, then you realize that, shit, this guy cannot wake up early, I cannot arrange for things in the morning. Right? Then you're able to zoom down and narrow down who the customers are, and then what kind of problem they have. But if you're focusing on the old traveler, their problem is that they need to have the itinerary very, very well spaced out. In fact, sometimes you need to allow them to go back to the hotel and rest. Right? Morning, one attraction, come back and rest, have a good meal, and then afternoon go for another one. Maybe evening, just chill at the poolside. All right, so places they want to go, not going to climb the very huge steps. If there's a climbing, make sure that they have a gondola or just a conveyor belt or lift. Right? So the needs is very different. Okay, then the problem that you solve will be different. All right, so customer segment is where you need to define. Now, customer segment need to bring out two very important data points. Number one is TAM, and the second one SAM. Okay, addressable market, service available market. Why do we need these two numbers in terms of when you present your business model? Why do we need these two numbers? Anybody want to venture a guess? TAM and SAM. Yeah. Why do we need that? Kavya, do you want to try?
I guess like the numbers which would relate with your serviceable available market are the ones you can immediately try to target through your marketing or whatever means.
Yeah.
Whereas the second, your TAM is where you can expect to expand. So it's more like how once you start growing, this is the second layer that you can target. So like if you are able to capture your serviceable part successfully, then you can look towards successfully working towards capturing your TAM as well. That corresponds to some growth.
Okay, my question is that why is these two numbers important in terms of pitching for investment?
The higher the number, the more interested would the investor be, because they'd see there is a larger customer segment available to service.
Exactly. But what the investor is looking for is that now he is thinking of how many users can you acquire. If the market is very small, all right, down here is very small, you know that you cannot acquire beyond that. So, which also means that your revenue potential is capped.
Oh, yeah.
It means that his valuation is capped. So mentally, he's looking and say, okay, this market is 10 million. Okay, that means your valuation is going to be maximum, maybe $20 million. Oops, not going to be interesting for me. That's the reason why he wants a number. Okay, how big a market size? All right?
All right, yeah.
So that is the reason why they want it. And when you have to understand that why are they sometimes asking, okay, market size. But a lot of the time, most of you present the market size, but why are they still drilling down on the market size? It is because that most of you take the number from people like IDC, right? You just Google, oh, the cybersecurity market is $5 billion in Singapore, right? That's what you do. Most of you do, right? In your presentation. What's wrong with taking the number from Gartner, IDC, CB Insight? What's wrong with that? Why am I saying that it is not good? Anybody want to try? Roy, okay, you have not.
So like correct me if I'm wrong. When the investor comes in, he potentially looks for the the market share that you want to capture. So if I don't have the correct numbers, I don't know what market share would I be capturing. So getting that number correct, give us a potential heads up saying that okay, this is the target market and the percentage of share that we are willing to capture or we have the potential to capture.
Yes, okay. Now my question is that what's wrong with using people like IDC, Gartners? They have published some number. CB Insight, there are some number. So when I just mentioned about it, okay, these are the market number. What's wrong with using that? Because this is what they survey already.
So I'll tell you. I'll give you an example probably. So if you talk about the cybersecurity market, so IDC, CP Insights talks about the total market. But if I look into my particular company, say I am into software security, so that doesn't fit into that total overall market.
Absolutely. Okay. So the number that given by all these research company, number one, we don't know how they derive it. Number two, okay, it could be a secondary research number and they compile from all over the place. They have a rationale for it. They have a rationale, they compile it for a particular purpose, the purpose of the report, but it's not for you. All right. So for an investor, what they are interested in is that the number is actually ground up. For example, that you're looking at say, okay, cybersecurity, I'm going to serve a small and medium-sized company who now have to work from home. I mean, you somehow define that. So there's a lot of SME right now have to work from home, trading company, finance company, etc. They don't have cybersecurity. So now the next thing you have to ask is that how many of such companies are now in, let's say, your target market, which is, let's say, Singapore, right? That's your first market. So you literally have to go into, let's assume that you go to Accra, and then you search and then find out those companies that are active. Filter out those obvious ones, so you roughly say, oh, I think we have about 110,000 SME. Okay, that is your total available market. All right, and then you start zooming down and say, maybe I'm going to target on the financial sector, people who are in this and trading. And you filter down, and say, oh, okay, there's probably about maybe 12 to 13,000 of them down here. Right? So when you have this number, then you can calculate the unit economy, because you are now able to say that 12,000 company, each one will buy my solution on the average $5,000. You're able to multiply that from there to calculate. All right. So a lot of time, all these model you need to build from the base, the ground up, versus you just plug a huge big figures on somewhere and say, oh, the market is going to be huge. All right.
More of a bottoms up approach.
Yes, correct. Absolutely. Okay. So you got it right that when a lot of time the startup present, okay, wow, huge big number, and most of the time the investor just totally ignore it, because they know that they say this. I don't even know what the number is inside down there. Are they going to correct you? They are not going to bother to correct you. Okay. But mentally they will start thinking and say, okay, you're going to serve SME. Singapore, how many SME? They roughly know the number. Okay. Singapore active, okay, SME, all the companies about 200,000 right now, right? Filter out here and there, top and dormant company, you probably have about 150, 120 of them. Okay, so they roughly will know, and then they say, okay, I don't think the market is big enough if you're just going to focus on Singapore, right? So that is very, very important, not just on the customer segment alone. That is very important. Number one, you need to know the TAM, SAM, customer archetype very, very clearly. If you don't know the customer archetype, you cannot calculate the TAM and SAM. Those are very important information that you need to know, because later, when you go further down, you will realize that this is what you need. Okay, so now here you are, you have a customer archetype already, very clear how big the market is, okay, where they are. Then you can talk about your value proposition. This is what you're going to offer to the customer, right? So you know that this is his pain. Reverse the pain that you give you the value proposition. This is the simplest portion of it, the most elegant thing. But this is the product that you're going to build that serves the customer. So that is when the product market fit is mentioned about it. But most importantly, on the value proposition, I mean, business model canvas, there's another two more things that most of the people will not look at it, and that is where the investor are very interested to know. The very first one is that distribution. All right, the channel. The channel is that how are you going to go and reach the customer? So customer have a need. How are you able to deliver a solution down there? Okay, so they are very interested, because if you are not able to reach the customer, not able to deliver things, it's useless. Right? The next thing about this particular channel they need, what is the number? The number they are very interested in know is that what is the cost of delivery per unit customer? They want to know. Because that a sales is done, you don't deliver, it's not a customer. So they need to know the cost, okay, per customer. And what is the most effective way of doing it? So remember, we talked about product market fit, we talked about leverage assets. So you are able to use distributor, the kiosk that belongs to everybody else. Oh yeah, why not, right? So he's interested to know that how are you going to do that? And this is a portion of it. How much does it cost? Very important, per unit. Because then he will know that what is so-called gross profitability. Profitability. So this is a portion that you need to know, and you want the number, and this is a number that you need to at least collect. Okay, so a lot of time in the P&L, most of people don't never so-called itemize it. So they don't bother to say, oh yeah, I have a few trucks, I have people doing it, and the CEO is delivering it also. But wait a minute, how much does it cost the company to use his CEO to deliver? Right? So you must be able to itemize it and look at it per unit cost. That's one. Okay. Then the next part you all know, right, is basically a sales channel. We call it customer relationship. Basically, it's sales. Now, sales also have a few very important number. Okay. Tell me, what are the numbers that you should be collecting in terms of your customer relationship, which is sales? what are the important parameters that you should be collecting in terms of sales? Mitch?
I think the number of prospects that could be turned to leads or deals. So
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe another one could be the cost of acquiring customers.
Yes. Okay. Ultimately, it's cost of acquiring. Okay. Now, a lot of time, cost of acquiring will so-called eventually drop. And if you have a very good approach using e-commerce, etc., the cost of acquisition will reduce. All right. So that is very important. Okay. You eventually still work out to be cost of acquisition. But most of the time, okay, for beginning, just like you mentioned about list of prospects, etc., this is actually the sales funnel. You must know that out of so many of you touch, what is the percentage that you will eventually convert into sales? All right, so that means that the hit rate. One salespeople, he can close, let's say, 10 sales per week. If you need 40 sales, all right, you know how many salespeople you need. All right, okay, so that is what you need to know all the numbers, so you can basically calculate how much are you going to cost. Is it going to cost you, and how many salespeople do you need? Okay, in order for you to achieve your target growth rate. Okay, now you know that it's very engineering, very simple. Okay, from the market, I say, okay, I'm going to dominate 10%. Okay, whatever the number that you come up with, it doesn't make sense until you say that because of 10%, okay, I'm going to, the next 1 year, I'm going to achieve 10% domination. How many salespeople do I need? You must be able to calculate from there. That is the cost. It's not about marketing campaign and all those things, okay? Marketing campaign, yes, you put that in, but most importantly, then how are you able to achieve that portion? How many salespeople I need? What is their closing rate? What is their productivity? Because one person can only make about 5 face-to-face meetings per day. Okay, now probably can do more because of COVID, so you do video conference. But phone call, on the average, is only about 20 calls per day. 20 calls per day, 5 call, face-to-face call per day. That is the kind of ratio that you know, okay? What is the closing ratio, okay? On the average, for most of consumer product, is about 25% closing ratio, right? A good sales will maybe up a little bit, okay? Lousy one, maybe a bit lower, and depends on what is his funnel. All right, so you will be able to calculate that, is that enough, okay, salespeople for you to achieve your goal? All right, and then you also need to know, like just like Michelle mentioned about the cost of sales, is that are you going to hire cheap salespeople, or are you going to hire hotshot, expensive, good salespeople? But the price is different. All right, and then there's something very important that most of the startup never factor in when they pitch, is that, okay, when I give you the money, when can the first salespeople come on board? Right? Because remember, you want to poach a salesperson from somewhere else, okay? It's going to take about at least 2-3 months. Right? 2-3 months before you're able to get the guy. First, you have to put up an advertisement, work out the job description, and you talk to the guy, and then the guy say, okay, yeah, I need to tender resignation. That will be easily 2 months. All right, so that is very important for an investor. You will hear, they say, oh, okay, after I give you the money, you sit another 3 more months before you can start. Oops. Remember, this run and the next fundraising, in between, probably is only about 18 months. You already wasted about 4 to 6 months already. It's not good, right? So a lot of time is that some of the good founder, they will say that, hey, you know, I have already 6% already queued up already. I know who they are. I spoke with them already. The moment the money in, I'm going to hire them. Okay, you got it ready. That's good. All right, right. So the transition become shorter. All right, or you say you already work with a recruitment so-called agent. Okay, they already have the people lined up. We talk to them already. Right, this is their performance. Okay, so now this is on the right side of the canvas, which is actually the toughest part. The toughest part, number one, is that you have to define your customer. You must know the TAM, SAM very clearly, and then you come to a value proposition, and then you need to look at your distribution costs, work down to unit economy, and ultimately your sales cost. How many people you need? Okay, are the people ready for it? Okay, anything that you can buy and have it activated immediately is not really a problem. Things that need a lead time, this is where you must be very conscious about. Okay, then on the left-hand side, I think it will become a lot easier. So you are talking about, okay, you will calculate the revenue. On the left-hand side, okay, so number one, you go about key resources. Where are the resources? Anything money can solve is not a problem. That's what investors always think. Okay, so resources you need, well, we go and find it. And activities. Now, activity is another part that you need to be very, very clear about, which is you have to work out your project timeline. Okay, so, and of course, partner, right? Who are the partners that you list down? Okay, it's okay that you haven't secured them, but you must identify these people and why are they relevant. Okay, and of course, then you work out the cost. So this is the 9 elements, 9 blocks of the business model canvas. And you notice that I spend almost all the time only on the first 4. Okay, because the rest of them, okay, you can use the money to address it and buy it. There's a solution space. The problem space is where you will spend most of the time focus on to achieve that. Now, business model canvas has various formats. Go ahead and use it. Okay, I'm not going to draw on it. But most important is that from the business model canvas, what comes out of it that you need. For example, actionable items such as how many salespeople do I need to hire? How many trucks do I need to rent? Is that enough? Okay, Amazon have to build his own warehouse. Okay, because there isn't enough. What are the tasks to do so that I will build towards that? Is that a machine that I need to buy? Okay, or rent? Okay, what is the most efficient way of doing it? All right, so you must be able to show your program is on track, because that is when the investor will look at and say, oh, okay, you have a good plan. All plan is sound. Okay, let's see your execution capability. Are you on track? Okay, do you plan all the things but nothing is being done? Okay, so with the execution, that is when you will be able to work with your mentor and maybe potential investor. Okay, what kind of connection you need, what kind of knowledge you need, what kind of resources you need, and everything flow inside down there. All right, so later when we share the IC deck, you will get to see these are the things that we are looking for. All right, so action item is very important to investor. Okay, now business model answer, just I highlight those are the things that require. So I'm going to show you a very simple and bad example. Okay, take for example that the customer segment we showed out here, mass market. Tell me, anybody can tell me why do I say that this is a lousy example? What is wrong with mass market? Wen Kai, you want to try?
It doesn't really tell you much about what the customer is made up of, like what are the archetypes that you can use to more effectively convey your product advantages.
Yeah, exactly. So now you understand already, right? So an example of all these things that sometimes you go through exercise where yellow sticker, you stick all over the place, everywhere, have fun away, take picture, etc. You notice that those sessions, it's not helpful at all. Those sessions are just recreational activity. All right, so sometimes you go into business school, we have fun about it, and you pace, and then we present, and okay, then you just tear it down because that it is not a real business, so it doesn't really matter. But if you are building a real business and you're going to raise money from investor, these are the questions they will ask. Mass market, which mass? All right. Okay. You want to do a value proposition. What experience are you talking about? What music experience you're talking about? What do you mean by seamless? Okay. How are you going to deliver it? Retail store. What kind of retail store? Salabat store can or not? Imagine a Salabat store selling iPod and iTunes. Not likely, right? Okay. So Apple store. Even retail store, Challenger maybe. How about a jewelry store? Maybe that's possible to get a high class, right? And sell it online. So all the detail, okay, have to be there. And you need to know how much it costs, okay? Having an Apple store is pretty expensive. The renovation alone, okay, the licensing franchise is expensive, right? Okay, so maybe just do online will be better. So these are the various considerations. An example like this will tell you that this one really can't tell you a lot of example. Okay. Now, just now, I think, is it Christoph who asked about the validation? Right. Who was the one who asked about validation just now?
No. I asked about it, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about it. Yeah, okay. So, come here, number one is that, of course, you can do survey. The Twitter example is the one I gave you just now. But the other way to do is that you just do a try selling it. And all you ask for is that give a deposit. Now, deposit is very similar to Kickstarter. The difference is that Kickstarter, after you take, you have to deliver something. Deposit actually can be a test. For example, that I constantly do this experiment in the class, okay? So in the class, I always say that, okay, I have this particular fantastic slimming pill. No side effect, all tested, work fantastic, okay? You take it in and then you can maintain, and in fact, you slim down to the desired weight. Number one. Number two, okay, you can eat anything you want to. So this is somehow fantastic for most of the women. Whether they how slim they are, they still want the pill. That's it, okay? Because we were interested, please pay a deposit. Money back guarantee. Okay, I will deliver it in 2 weeks. Okay, if I don't deliver, I return you the money. So yes, deposit, right? So definitely interested, right? So say, okay, deposit $10. You will notice that a lot of girls will straight away take the money out, okay, and they pay and say, look, I'm willing to give $10 first. It's okay. What they really wanted. Now, immediately after the whole exercise, okay, say, look, this is the example. The person is willing to give you deposit, all right, to secure a place. That is definitely a need, okay, a solid demand for the product. Right? So after exercise, of course, I return the money. But very often that I will encounter this example that the girl will tell me and say, look, you keep the money, okay, I want my product. Right? The demand is real. You say, you keep the money, I want my product. I don't care, okay? I already put the $10 out there already, okay? You better give me the product. Okay, this is a very, very real case. That's why I don't play with this exercise anymore, because I will spend a lot of time telling them that this is just an exercise. All right? Okay, so now you understand that. Okay, so there's a difference between deposit and Kickstarter, right? Kickstarter, when you run it, the most important thing most of people miss out is that they are taking the money in, you're supposed to deliver the product. Most of the time, for example, the Pirate 3D, they take the money in for R&D. And then they start doing all the R&D, finish already, you use up all the money, there's no money for them to manufacture the product. Okay, so that becomes a flaw. Okay, so do Kickstarter is something that you have to be very, very mindful of. You take the money, you have to cover a certain portion of the cost as R&D cost. Okay, so most of the people are inexperienced. This is what they do. This is a product, what's it called, raw material cost. They didn't even factor in their own labor cost. Okay, I put the last one is NIGAG. Okay, NIGAG, I'm not sure whether you're familiar with NIGAG. Anybody know what NIGAG is?
I haven't heard about it.
Okay, so this is not a fantastically popular one anymore, right? NIGAG is just basically a joke, Instagram, that kind of thing. Now, things that is resonating with people, okay, will go viral. NIGAG is the platform with, I think, 300 million user out there, active user that swipe at you. Okay, so something that is popular, resonate, it will spread very fast. So you can compose something, all right, that if the message is resonating, go through 9gag, okay, almost like Twitter, and you see how viral it is. Okay, publisher with an idea, pump, package something, pump, and see how viral it is. So 9gag is actually a very good platform, right? Where people will pay with their effort in forwarding. All right, so these are the various ways for you to validate, but you must know that, okay, survey, you can do B2B, okay, B2B to C, okay, yes, you can also do B2C, but you need a large number. Twitter is largely focused on B2C type. Deposit, you usually do B2B or B2C. Kickstarter, B2C type. 9gag, okay, very much is community, B2C type. All right, so once you understand what, okay, you can all just keep trying for it. All right. Okay, so when you have a model, okay, a lot of the time when you start working out the business model for your investor, and you realize something is not working, it's good for you to just go back, okay? Go back to the drawing board, adjust your business model. That is okay, okay? So you may have to work with your mentor, work with your coach to make the changes, okay? Don't get too so-called hang up with one model, okay? You constantly can change it. And to explain your idea, okay, sometimes it is very good to just copy how other people explain it. So you know Uber, you know Tinder, Airbnb, for example, and then you can say that, okay, this is yours, okay? I'm a storage, Uber for storage. I'm a Tinder for alcohol, for example. So there's a lot of all these ideas down here, okay? I will be able to share with you this particular what's it called, graphic drawing. You will start seeing it. The space that is empty. But using this one is a very easy for people to understand and say, oh, I see, you are Airbnb for dog. Okay, for example. All right. And once you have a business model canvas, now that is when you are able to use it to build a story. Okay, the story, for example, you start with say, okay, imagine that Macy is about to graduate. She's a fresh, young graduate. And she is looking for a job, right? You create a story, okay, which we are going to cover on Monday, the story of Macy going to get a job. And usually the investor doesn't resonate with the young people because usually the investors are usually old. So how can you create a resonance? Then you say, imagine your daughter or imagine your niece, okay, that is graduating from the university. And this is a problem that she faces, right? So customer archetype, problem, all right? So now you look at it, every year, NTU graduating about 10,000 and US graduating about 12,000. We have about 22,000 students graduate. And immediately, they are the unemployment statistics. Okay, pump, there's a problem. Right? So you have a TAM blend into it. Okay, you have a service available market blend into it. You define the customer clearly. Okay, so that is how you will use a business model to tell the story. Okay. We'll have more detail on that one. Okay. So, okay, so the business model canvas is where I condense everything. I'm just going to only focus on the customer segment. Okay, a little bit of value proposition, but most importantly, you have to be able to find all the number to justify your existence. Total addressable market, service available market, and you look at the distribution, okay, the distribution, how costly it is, unit cost, and as well as the sales cost, right? Then the rest of the manufacturing costs and all these things, you can easily calculate them already.